Okay, so just a reminder that you are looking at exposure, likelihood, and severity, and you're trying to put a score to each of those. But once you've scored, one of those, you need to remove that from your thinking as a factor in the next one. So take, for example, severity. Well, severity is not going to be influenced by how many vehicles there are. It's not going to be influenced by the chance of the crash. It's simply influenced by how bad the crash is when it happens. And yes, there will be a spectrum of crashes. So there will be some minor ones in life, but we are thinking about the higher end possibility crashes. Now, you do need a little bit of judgment in clarifying in your mind what this crash scenario is that you think is the higher end possible crash, which is still within the, possible, not absolutely, really super rare freak event. And then, you've conjured that crash in your mind and the speed of it, the angle of it, the types of vehicles that would be involved in it, the types of road users that are involved in it. You want to use this as a bit of a starting point in terms of, okay, where are we going to score this? And so you're really saying if anything's happening up in that 100km/h area, it's really going to be at the high end of that, of course. That being said, you remember there's the delta V effect. So if you get two vehicles and the speed, the difference in speed is lower than that, you don't take that sort of crash speed as the speed of the vehicles traveling. It's the difference in speed. And so you're really just able to then sort of pick a crash, pedestrian in a car, and think about the speed it's happening and get a nice feel for, okay, 40 kilometers, if that's happening, it's in the high end, it's 3 or so. So that's the severity one. And then just another clarification here. When you're on your matrix and in there and you've done the existing conditions, and you dot point all the factors that are contributing to your decision on that score. So you're dot pointing speed. You might, say, well, there's lots of heavy vehicles. That means the crash I'm conjuring in my mind could involve a heavy vehicle, and that's going to be more severe. The angle of crash, are they hitting a barrier or are they hitting a fixed object, and these sort of things. And then the likelihood, lots and lots of stuff usually in likelihood. You've got heaps and heaps of things that influence the chance a crash will happen. The exposure is really just going to be, well, what are the volumes? And if it's your intersection, what are the volumes on this one and this one? And you add those together. You put your scores in, and we try to avoid going to a 0.5 in this scoring. We try to keep it at whole numbers, but if you really feel I must go to a 0.5, you can go to a 0.5. Really, really rare to see an exposure at a 0.5 because they're such clear cut bands. But you then multiply these through and you get your score down the bottom. So you multiply down, and then you add up across the bottom. So hopefully that that makes sense to all of you. Use your scoring reference sheet, use this, and the likelihood one is going to be subjective, but you've got lots of ability to justify how you arrived at that score with all the dot points you're going to put in there. And if if you're still struggling a bit, maybe you go back and watch the recording of the last module where I sort of work through and talk all of that through, and listen to that again. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Ken, there's a question. Can you hear me? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. About vulnerable user severity. Through vehicle speeds on a main road are well above the safe system threshold, but side road and turning vehicle volumes or speeds are probably under 30 Ks. Vulnerable road user crashes with vehicles on the main road would get a score of 4 for severity, but crashes with turning vehicles might be a 3. Would 3.5 be reasonable overall?
No. Well, it depends how you're doing the assessment. I mean, step back from the depths of the matrix and say, what are we trying to achieve out of this? And what we're trying to achieve is to show that there is a significant issue or a very poor alignment with safe system principles of pedestrians crossing that main road. We really want to highlight that. So if you were doing a risk assessment, it wasn't number related, how would you rate pedestrian risk at that intersection? And you'd rate it high based on the fact that there's this particular crossing point, and that would be looked to be addressed. And so you've got to kind of think about the safe system assessment framework in a bit of that sense. So that's what you would be focusing on. Now, the reason I said but maybe depends how you're doing it, because you can do very refined, precise safe system assessing, which takes a long time and takes a particular type of person to really want to do this. But you can sort of, have I got my pen going? You can sort of do this. Yeah. If you've got that, you've got a crossing point here, and you've got a crossing point here. You can section off parts and break up your intersection into quadrants, essentially, or squares, and do a scoring on each of these based on the volume. So you do a full matrix for each of these, or full scoring, and then you do a weighted average based off the volume to get your end scores. It's far more precise than, in my opinion, is warranted for the precision of the methodology, because you're finding it out at the moment. You're making a judgment call on, especially the likelihood. It's subjective. So to get into that refined precision is a bit too much. Step back, think about it as a broad brush, holistic risk assessment methodology where you're trying to flag higher risk areas. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Thank you, Ken. Yeah, one more question. How do you decrease exposure, AADT, at an intersection if it's the only way to get to the beach, suburb, urban centre, etc.?
Yep. So you don't have to. Like, there's nothing. So in our module 2 exercise, we said you had to, but we didn't say you had to be realistic. Okay. And it wasn't about realistically sort of thinking about how you would do that. It was about showing us that you understand the concept of exposure, the concept of likelihood, and the concept of severity. So you could do that by overpasses, underpasses, blocking the road, diverting them down the road a few kilometers and in via another access. Yeah. Okay. Completely impractical probably for that situation, but it shows you understand what exposure alteration is. Okay. In a real safe system assessment, you may not have anything that you can do that would alter the exposure to crashes that you believe is practical. Now, we want you to recommend things within safe system assessments that are progressive, that push, that get people, really thinking and trying to change things. We don't want just, put up a warning sign style. Previously, we know, a tiny little, impact on likelihood, but we want to really meaty stuff. But if you don't have anything that would alter that, that's okay. The exposure. So hopefully that makes sense as well.
Thanks, Ken. That's all we've got for the minute, but keep the questions coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have, as I said, plenty of time allocated for these questions. And Kathy will at the end show you how to finish off the course in the learning management system, submit your final assignments and do the last little bits and pieces to get your certificate. Okay, so let's jump into a little bit of content from me. I want to, sorry, I'm just thinking whether there's any Wallies. Anyway, we'll have a look, and maybe Kathy, we need to just double check that at the end. I think there's usually a Wally hiding on this slide. Now, maybe I'm playing Where's Wally with myself here. Anyway, recite the benefits of safe system assessment. Why are we going to just show you the benefits of safe system assessment? Because you hopefully are going to be champions for the safe system assessment process, whether that's within an organization where you're trying to get them done on projects, or whether you're a consultant that is offering this service and trying to help clients to align better with safe system principles. And there's a lot of people out there who just don't understand why there's another assessment process and are resistant to adding more processes and in their mind, red tape to infrastructure projects and the like. So I'll talk you through some of that. We're going to talk through the process of safe system assessments within an infrastructure project or within an infrastructure project's life cycle. And we're going to talk about the differences between safe system assessments and road safety audits, because that's probably one of the most asked questions we get, is why would we do this safe system assessment? We do a road safety audit. That covers off everything. And I'll show you that they're different processes. I mean, there's overlapping parts. Okay, the first thing I want to do, though, is talk to you about an evaluation of safe system assessments. So this is an evaluation it was an independent evaluation done by Blair Turner, who some of you probably know. Blair is originally a New Zealander, and he lives in Australia now, or maybe in the US. I can't even remember. Anyway, doesn't matter. Blair did this evaluation of 35 safe system assessments and used a crash prediction model. So predicting 20 years into the future, how many deaths and serious injuries are we expecting? And so that's here, FSI, fatal serious injuries, sometimes called KSI. And these 35 projects that were being assessed were massive projects. We're talking about whole town bypasses. We're talking about major, multi-$100 million project duplication projects and these sort of things. Major freeway upgrades and that sort of stuff. So for all of these areas, if no project was done, nothing changed in the next 20 years in these areas. So for the town bypass, there was no town bypass. All the traffic went through the town for the next 20 years. Or, the duplication, it wasn't duplicated, it stayed as a single carriageway road. All of these added up, there would be 7,900 308 serious injuries and 344 fatalities in those areas. So then it was looked at the original designs that were produced by the big design houses and big design consultancies, and it's what was called the original designs, and they were usually about a reference design level. So it's some almost functional design, and we're talking about 6,700 and 286 fatalities. Now, every one of these designs, about there was 32, I think it was, of these designs had a feasibility stage road safety audit undertaken on them. So an independent set of eyes had looked at that project. Then the safe system assessment was done and made a whole lot of recommendations, and the highest alignment with safe system principle recommendations. So the evaluation team looked through and said, yep, these are the higher, taking the top ones of these and putting them in, dropped the score or the numbers down to 3,890 serious injuries, 167 fatalities. And then this last one is, well, what was actually adopted? So the project team got the safe system assessment and had all these recommendations, and they said, well, yeah, we can do these first two, but we can't do that third one for whatever reason. We can't afford it. There's a cultural heritage issue there. We can't actually widen in that area. Could be political, could be we don't think the community will accept that. Whatever it is. And so the number of deaths and serious injuries sort of go to 5,298 and 227. So this tells me quite a story, and I will run you through that. So the first thing it tells me is that the designs that are being produced from the big design houses and churning out lots of big highway and road design improve road safety. They've improved road safety by that much. So the next thing is that, that's what the addition we can do with what we know and what we currently, the safe system assessors believe is able to be done. This difference here, this is an interesting one. This is the difference between what the safe system assessors think could be done and what the designers and the project managers believe can be done. And that's a raft of factors that sit in there, and it can be funding, it can be culture, it can be political support, community sentiment on stuff, and it can be a lot of the time the designers or the project managers feeling that it's too risky or too time consuming to do this new thing that's being suggested, or it's not the way that we do stuff, or there's not a documented standard or guideline on how to do that. So not going down that track. So there's a lot that's packed into that. But the difference between that and that, well, that's our immediate win, our immediate value of safe system assessments. Because just by going through this process, the projects were altered to reduce death and serious injury in that amount. So that's our immediate why we do safe system assessments. This one, we need to work in a whole lot of ways to bring us in our normal way of operating with a bit of pushing and change a culture, develop new guidelines and standards and practices, get more funding, convince the community on some things, get political support for stuff, all of that. hopefully we'll, in fact, I'm absolutely sure we will see this coming down, because there's this wonderful benefit of safe system assessments, which are actually as an education tool. So every time a designer designs something, or a planner or a project manager, it gets a safe system assessment. They read it. Their next design, that will have that in mind. They'll think, oh yeah, okay, that safe system assessor said that. Better think about that. Can I do something better? So we're going to see that hopefully come down over time. This is fascinating, because we've established that, you know, the safe system's about zero death and serious injury, aiming at that. Well, we've sort of committed to Vision Zero. We're trying to do that, and a safe system assessment should be providing us with ideas that eliminate death and serious injury. So how come a high safe system assessment ideas and the things like that are still leaving us with, in this case, 3,890 people seriously injured and 167 people killed on these areas? What's going on there? Well, to a degree, it's proof that the, I think, prediction model is realistic, that was being used in terms of predicting death and serious injury. Because what you actually look at into this, and you discover these are, well, they're termed usually the residual, and it's a lot of things that we do not have infrastructure solutions for, and they're going to take these sort of significant policy shifts, legislative shifts, behavioural shifts, and the like. So really what that pool of death and serious injury is made up of is motorcyclists, big percentage is motorcyclists. Extreme, like highly extreme driver behaviour style stuff, and the occasional just freak event. But so the thing is that what we need to do as an industry is acknowledge that. Say, we don't have the tools in our toolkit to eliminate these types of deaths and serious injury at the moment. So we need to innovate. We need to get new ways of thinking. We need new practices. We need new inventions. We also need the other elements of the system to really start to play on this one. We need legislative change. We need new automotive design rules. We need enforcement regimes, licensing systems, vehicle technologies, and all of that to innovate us and move us to get this down. So really the infrastructure can do, I suppose, a lot, almost that, pretty much predominantly with infrastructure, but it can't do everything. Now, in a safe system assessment, you'll notice that we do try to make recommendations across all of the elements of the system, and that was taken into account in the evaluation, except for the fact was that they said, well, okay, so you've suggested enforcement bays, great, or you've suggested or you've looked at vehicle technology, but you haven't been able to make any recommendation on this isolated project. And that's because these are isolated infrastructure projects. You need to, that sort of stuff needs to be done at a nationwide level. Yeah. So I hope that little sort of analysis of this graph has resonated with you. Any questions or comments come in there on my messy slide?
Looks good, Ken, makes sense. And we're obviously in this for a long time, aren't we? Mm-hmm. Andrew says, of course, general speed reduction would reduce this as well.
Yeah, a number of these 35 projects had some speed limit reductions, but they had a lot of speed calming measures, raised intersections, and then roundabouts and those sort of things. So there was some of that factored into it, but yeah, I don't know. As I think speed limit reductions really would play into a lot of this, and you'd be sort of double counting a bit of that. You probably get this down a little bit more, but it's not going to be as substantial as like, so no project, and if all they did was speed reductions, we'd see that drop, you know, a fair amount. Okay. If, you know, you've got to here and you do speed limit reductions, it's not going to drop as much because, as I mentioned, they're the residual that you're talking about driver behavior that is, you know, speed limit is irrelevant to, because going 180 or something like that, it doesn't matter if it was posted 100 or 80, going way over that. And it's a fascinating little exercise to do a thing called backcasting. And New Zealand is going through this process at the moment with some of my colleagues in sort of saying, how do I explain this in a very succinct manner that doesn't take us 3 days? 2050, you got 0 death and serious injury. What does that look like? What does the system look like in 2050? What do the roads look like? What do the vehicles look like? What do the enforcement regimes look like? You need to really visualize this end state. What will it all look like? Right? And then you go, okay, well, where are we now? And what you do is you can take crashes that have happened back here in the last few years, and you can take them down here and say, would that crash A, have happened, and B, resulted in death and serious injury in our end state in 2050? And so what you can do is you can say, okay, you need to do pretty in-depth looking at these crashes. And you say, well, driver fell asleep, left the road, woke up in the roadside, you know, heavily turned the steering wheel, shot off the road, hit a tree, driver was killed. Speed limit was 100 kilometers an hour. They were driving a 20 Mitsubishi Lancer, and, you know, here's the policy framework that we're all sitting in and all of that. So then you go, well, okay, in 2050, that particular road would have continuous barrier systems. A 2020 vehicle is 2 years old of today. And so that would be a 2048 vehicle of the time. And we know the 2048 vehicle won't let that happen. So that goes in the pool of solved under your vision, right? The next crash you then look at, you go, right, motorcyclists, same road, traveling along. Appears they were going a little bit above the speed limit. And okay, motorcycle goes around a curve, leaves the road, hits a tree because they were going a little bit fast into the curve. And then you say, okay, they were riding a 20-year-old bike, and we look at the bike then in 2050 of the 2030 bike, because it's 20-year-old, and we say, right, okay, what are the features of the road and like, and then we go, we're not convinced that that will be solved, and that goes into another pile, and that's called the residual. And so then what you end up doing is your strategy to achieve a vision zero involves, hey, we know how to fix these. Now just here's the best order to do that and how much money you need, right? We don't know how to fix these. So strategically, you need to innovate or change or alter policies to fix the residual. That's pretty interesting methodology. And funnily enough here, the methodology, it's called backcasting, wasn't invented for road safety. It was invented for environmental sustainability, climate change related thinking. Same thing, how do you eliminate greenhouse gases or get us to a point which is somewhat sustainable? And then you backcast off that time that you basically say, well, if we go past this date, we're done. We can't turn back. World's just stuffed, or humanity stuffed at least. And so if you've set that date where you must be at a certain point, which you can, and you need to say, well, what can we produce? And then say, all right, how do we work back? And here are the things that need to be changed. Anyway, backcasting, there you go. Vision Zero strategizing wasn't what I was planning to cover today, but I hope you enjoyed.
Special bonus. Thank you, Ken. A question for you. Should costs be considered as a legitimate barrier when trying to achieve Vision Zero? What is considered reasonable when balancing the economic cost of loss of life and the cost of implementing safe system principles?
Well, I mean, to a degree, you have to factor in costs. It's just practically has to be done. However, I think we jumped cost often as an excuse, and it's an excuse which is really, it costs too much for the way we want to do it. And I take, for example, a high-speed rural road, and there's this assumption that it's got to be kept high speed, and thus it costs too much to upgrade it and get it to safe system principles. But you go, well, you can get it there quite cheaply from a capital infrastructure perspective by doing a lot of low-cost things that reduce the speed significantly. Okay, and then people will argue, oh, well, that's a cost to the economy and these sort of things. Well, yes and no. I don't think it's anywhere near as much of a cost to the economy. But yeah, so alternate ways of managing the whole transport system, I think, should be thought about in that sense. And just new infrastructure, there's, to me, no sort of excuse. And New Zealand's pretty great at this, I think, with new large capital infrastructure investments. You do the best you possibly can. And if you can't get high alignment with safe system principles in parts of it, it can't be built. Like you can't build it. It's like saying, well, I want to build a new apartment complex, and I don't want to put railings on the balconies, because it can't quite afford that. Well, you can't quite afford to build the building. It's not a, we don't go, yeah, fair enough, because the BCR is, still good, because we know that only one person every 10 years will actually fall off the balcony and be killed. That's okay. It saves you that amount of money, and we're good to go. Just a different way of thinking about it. So that's how we sort of need to think about at least new infrastructure. It gets problematic with upgrading existing infrastructure and where you put your investment, how much actual money you have to do things. So yeah, long discussions to be had on that.
Good, Ken. I like the apartment analogy. Will there be a point where manufacturers stop making their vehicles capable of doing double the speed limit or more?
Well, yeah, it sort of makes me weep a bit, that the way that all happens, because it's so obvious, isn't it? Like, how far that is from safe system principles, but it's just like the massive multinational giants running the show in that vehicle space. So Volvo has done something in that space. I wouldn't say it's, you know, groundbreaking, but I think any step is good, and they have speed. They will not produce a vehicle that can go more than like 130 miles an hour.
Yes, 180.
180. Yeah, but it's something.
It is.
So what they've said, they've done something. Yeah. So I don't know. But I don't know. I think it's a great question. I don't have enough knowledge to answer it in a really great way, I don't think.
Oh, I love where this is going this morning, Ken. It's good, but it's what are we, 45 minutes in? Sorry, I'm
wow.
too long.
I'm on slide 1, Kathy.
Oh. But we had time for Q&A, so we're good.
I've got a quiet weekend, so we can just continue. I'm happy. No, it's
a
fine.
Long weekend here in Melbourne too, so we're going straight through to Monday, everybody.
As I said, we had so much time packed into this that I can just jump through quite quickly from here. But we will take a break in about 15 minutes. But don't let that stop the questions coming in. So, you know, safe system assessments in terms of value. I've put a slide in here with some of the benefits, just pointed, so you could use those, recite them to others if people ask. But great way of determining how well a project aligns with safe system principles. It's a good way for comparing project design options. You know, there's not too many other methodologies that are good for that in the road safety space. Like a road safety audit is no good for that, not at all. And road safety auditors are clearly told this is not a process for comparing options and ranking options. You just say all the issues with that option and say all the issues with that option. That's it. But safe system assessments are great for that. You've seen it. You score. You can just score things. You can put it into multi-criteria assessments. It's got wins all over it. It's a great way of informing design changes that are going to take, inject more safe system thinking into these projects. It's good for planners, designers, project managers to move safe system from theory to practice. And this is so important, because a lot of the principles of the safe system philosophy are, by their nature, high level principles, and that's fine. That's great. But how do we make decisions on the ground? And this methodology is good for it. And it's a sound basis for future planning and design of road infrastructure. Okay. Oh, Wally's arrived. Excellent. Okay. Well, where and when would a safe system assessment be a good idea and a good thing to do? And the answer to that is early in the project, when you've got concepts, when you're doing optioneering, and you're really thinking about what can we do here? How can we upgrade it? Here are project objectives. Here's a few ideas and designs, possibilities. Right. Safe system assessment, then wonderful, valuable, excellent. When you've got 500 pages of detailed design and you've got long sections, cross sections, drainage plan, pavement plans, signal phasing, and all of that, safe system assessment's not going to. You can do it. The process still works, but it's what the willingness to alter a project's fundamentals is gone. They know exactly how much they've got to spend. They know exactly what their footprint is. They've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in the detailed design potentially. They invested all this time. It's not going to change. I mean, it's not going to fundamentally change. Sure, they'll change the flare rate of a barrier, or they'll change the, super elevation slightly here and there, but they're not going to alter it to add a raised intersection or raise a pedestrian crossing or these sort of things at that stage. It's very unlikely that they'll do that. And so what you end up getting is a whole lot of work done that they just either put in a shelf, destroy the documents so nobody ever knows that it was done, or these sorts of things, which I'm talking, unfortunately, from experience here, they're just not received well. But road safety audits tend to work better in that space because they, the nature of how it's done just seems to lend itself better in those detailed design spaces, and temporary traffic management and checking that it was built correctly and those sort of things. So early safe system assessments. Now, road safety audits have sort of changed recently. Now, New Zealand is yet to, release your own supplement to the 2022 release of the Austin's Code Road Safety Part 6, which is road safety auditing. You're still operating under your 2013 New Zealand road safety audit guidelines. I know there's a lot of work at Wakakatahi and getting this new way of operating, and it's going to be released soon, and we're all excited for that, which I'm sure will, heard a little bit about what's in it, but it's going to do a really good job of moving us to get these two much closer together, which is good. But they are still different processes, produce different outcomes, and are used in different ways. So, but in general, and I really must stress this is in general, both audits and safe system assessments, really analyze nicely the likelihood of crashes. Kathy, while I'm saying this, you might want to dig out that comparison sheet that we just released, and we'll show that after I'm done with this. Severity of crashes, I put sometimes here for auditing. There's a lot of audits that just have huge concentration on reducing the likelihood of crashes, stopping crashes happening in the first place, and really ignore if a crash still happens or when a crash still happens. We're getting better at that. But I still see a lot of audits in that space. Don't get me wrong, we've got to do everything we can to stop crashes happening, but we do need to get in the mindset that even if we've done all of that right, crashes will still happen, and how do we manage that? Exposure as its own entity is just not done in road safety audit. It's embedded into likelihood. Recommendations to improve road safety, yep, both do that. Consider all road users, both do that. Focus on fatal and serious only, that's safe system assessments. Road safety audits will look at more minor things and property damage and those sorts of incidents. That can be very valuable and helpful in a project. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think, it's just different. That's the other crashes. Investigates vehicles, people, maintenance, post-crash care. They're all through those qualitative questions in a safe system assessment. Makes recommendations to redesign the project if required. So road safety audits aren't about redesigning the project. And when I say redesign, I don't mean like get in CAD and redesign the project. I mean like fundamental changes to the intersection forms and the scope and the cross-section and all of these sort of things. Is a real project redesign. And safe system assessments are much better set up for that. And encourages innovation. And this, to me, it's kind of one of the most exciting things I see about safe system assessments is that, let me just give you an example. Take something that's fairly new and innovative. And maybe it's been done in other parts of the world, but not in New Zealand. And okay, so what do we do? Like a protected roundabout, so a cyclist Dutch style roundabout, and you're popping that into Auckland or something. And I don't think you've got too many of those, if any. But so a road safety, so the design is done, and the road safety auditor is engaged, or the audit team is engaged, and they're handed the designs. Their job is not to tell you whether it's going to improve road safety or not. Their job is to find every risk associated with that being built. And so what you inevitably get is a big report from the road safety audit team that shows you all the risks. And that can be a very sort of, it can look like doing this is super risky. They'll often come up with all sorts of, things that could happen. Never any mention of all the improvements in safety. Yet a safe system assessment quantifies all of those benefits that you're going to get out of it, then also looks at things that might need to be adjusted and addressed. So it's a pretty good way to do that. And the scalability of safe system assessment, you can do it at a project level, you can do it at a program level, you could do it at whole remote community or a mine site or a ski village, or you could safe system assess pretty much anything. Okay, so there you go. Any questions, Kathy?
Yes, Ken. Would you include a safe system assessment as part of your scheme and planning for budgeting purposes?
For a program?
I think this was earlier about, hold on, go back to your previous slide, the one before your comparison slide. Yeah, so concept draft, detail, life cycle one. Sorry, I stopped sharing my screen. No. Okay, project related to Marcus's comment. So Marcus had a comment that was, surely it's deliver or not deliver based on available budget scenario. This was back in our discussion about, okay. And then, then the follow-on question from that comment is, would you include an SSA as part of your scheme and planning for budgeting purposes?
You could. Yeah, I mean, that would be an interesting one. We often, a lot of jurisdictions have it as part of the business case, and whether your business cases are done before your budgeting or they're already committed, and then there's a business case created to justify why that's happening, which ridiculous. I think I've probably written 20 business cases in my life, and the project was going to happen. The business case was just documenting and justifying it because it was a political commitment. But anyway, that's an aside. So that's certainly a good option. Yeah, and it'd feed in nicely.
That's it for now. Thank you, Ken.
Okay. Did you have that comparison document or not?
Yes, I did. Did you want me to bring that up?
Yeah,
okay.
We'll share that now.
Just okay, great.
And then we'll send it to everybody, or we'll put it in the learning management system.
We will.
So people can look at it in much more detail. Some of you might have seen it. We popped it online a while back. No, not a while back. A week ago.
It does feel like a while back, that one, doesn't it?
Yep.
What happens in a week? I've just taken you straight to our website, so that's handy. Resources, fact sheets, and I will pop it in the learning management system, as Ken has pointed out. But this is a good opportunity to have a look at all the other fact sheets. There it is there.
Not on my screen. It says Safe System Solutions has started sharing. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, good. Oh, well, you missed all the way to get there. Never mind. Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can see the website.
It's like working in slow motion, is it?
Yeah. And fact sheets hasn't come up yet. Okay. I'm bored with this now. So.
Yeah. Boo. It's coming soon.
No, it's infuriating.
No, it's not. No. The little people making the internet work here are working very hard, but it's not working. I'll pop it in the learning management system. Sorry.
That's all right. Tell the internet people to pedal faster.
I will.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully, maybe. Seamless operation this Friday, Kathy. Okay. Here we go. All right. Let's go through a process. I'll do this slide and then we're going to take our stretch break, coffee break, and we'll get a few things ready behind the scenes.
I've put it in the chat. Is it in the chat?
Is it in the chat? Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
There
Well
we
done.
go. There's a workaround.
Okay, here we go. Process. Okay, so first of all, somebody needs to determine that a safe system assessment should be done, and then what type of safe system assessment should be done. And there's a couple of types. There's this full safe system assessment or this rapid one. Now, rapid is not that remarkably different to a full, but it is more rapid by a bit. So, but who's going to make that decision? Well, whoever the road controlling authority or the client, is the project sponsor. And there might be policies and things to help them make the decision. Then the team is selected. Who's going to do this safe system assessment for us? And is it going to be, who has the appropriate skills to do this and the like? And so they're choosing the team. Then there's like the sort of commencement meeting and the project context, and they work often hand in hand, where you're sitting down and you're talking about the project. What are the objectives? What's the scope here? Okay, what's this little bit? What is happening over here? And getting that full understanding. What's the movement of place? What's the speed? All of that sort of discussion can work really well as a workshop, and doing all of that and getting that understanding. You can also, if they're not people who have had safe system assessments done before and don't understand the process, you can talk them through what's about to happen. Then there's the site inspection by the safe system assessment team and completion of the safe system assessment matrix. And you're doing that at the moment. And then you would do as many design options as required to be assessed through the matrix. The other elements of the safe system and those qualitative questions, treatments to improve safe system alignment. So ideas on how things are going to get better. So how do we improve all of these designs, make them better? And some reporting in the templates, and you're working with one of the templates now. And then it's all handed over, and it's really important that whoever receives that report makes commitments and responds to any changes. Now, they don't necessarily send it back to the safe system assessment team, because the safe system assessment team's not like a regulatory team or anything like that. They're providing advice. This is an advice document. Here we go. This is what we advise with your project, and it's over to you now. And if they don't want to do anything with it, well, it's a waste of everybody's time and resources, but that's up to them. Then we want to see design and projects amended to incorporate these ideas and these changes. Often, within here, there's a feedback in to do another matrix. So they've said, okay, thanks for all these ideas. Okay, we've decided to do option 7B, but we're going to take on your ideas to add this and this. Can you rescore that for us? And I do like that, because you get this nice sort of ability to produce this graph that says, existing conditions were this score, and had all these design options, but 7B came in there. So it was, it was going to improve things. But we got this safe system assessment done, and they came up with some ideas, and it brought it down to here. And so, we've really pushed and done everything we possibly can to get the best alignment with safe system principles. And there's good proof as you put that through your project control groups or your executive groups and management who are making decisions. Do we improve this project? Do we not? Is it okay in that fashion? Okay, let's take a stretch break. 4 minutes. and we'll get back into it. Okay. So we were talking there a little bit about, well, who does these assessments? And New Zealand doesn't have a formal register of safe system assessors or anything like that, nor does Austroads. Victoria does, and I'll point you at that, as does South Australia. And there's nothing stopping New Zealanders getting onto these registers or lists of accredited safe system assessors if you would like to do something like that. So for Victoria, on the VicRoads website, you're in the safe system engineering area. That's where actually you can find templates and guidance, but I think we've put all of that into learning management system. But a little bit further down that page, you see the VicRoads register of recommended safe system assessors. And this is how you get on that or list, or how they're growing the list. You flag that you've got an interest. You don't need to do that because you already found out about this course, because then they'll send you on information about this course or any other equivalent ones. But ours is the one that's listed there. And then you need to successfully complete that. Then you need to actually do a real safe system assessment. So the one you're currently doing, the training exercise one, doesn't count because you're not going through the process of gathering the full background of the project, really understanding it, any workshops, interactions with the client. It's also there. Some of them are fabricated, and then you submit that and it gets reviewed. And if they're satisfied that you've shown that you have the ability and understanding and the like, you get put on the list. And the list is just a PDF update that pops in there. And it sort of just looks like this, and it gets updated periodically and new people added. So it's good. You can get yourself onto that list, and if that's something you want to do. The South Australians also have a similar list, less onerous to get on the South Australian one. You just need to simply show that you've successfully completed this course, and they'll add you to their list. But if that's something you're interested in getting on these lists, let us know. We can send you a link to that, to the exact spots on the website where you do that. But really in New Zealand, it's just about engaging people you have confidence have the ability to do that. I'm sure having a certificate of successful completion of this course is going to help to that. But like anything, you sort of engage people that you know have good experience or abilities in these areas, and build an industry around that. In terms of when to do them, we had a bit of discussion about this, and I'm just showing you examples here of what some jurisdictions do. It's really up to New Zealand as to how that happens, and it's up to individual local governments as to what their decisions on if they do these and when they do them. Victoria, for example, says, well, under $2 million total estimated cost of project, you could do a rapid safe system assessment if you believe it should be done. Some sort of assessment, but we'll really leave it up to you as to whether you think that would add value or not. Between 2 million and 5 million, it has to be done, and it's just a decision as to whether it's a full safe system assessment for anything that's complex or poses significant risk, or whether it's a rapid for the lower risk projects. And above 5 million, full safe system assessment for everything. Anything being built by the Victorian government that interfaces any way at all with a road, and it's above $5 million, has to have a full safe system assessment undertaken on it. And what's the difference between that full and that rapid? Well, as I mentioned, there's not a huge amount of difference. Let me just go through what a full safe system assessment involves, and I'll just mark a few that don't necessarily need to happen in a rapid. So the commencement meetings probably is one where you don't necessarily have to have a meeting if it's all clear cut and everybody knows what's going on. It can just continue. You will have some sort of commencement meeting in a full one. You're going to need the background and context regardless, so you need to somehow get that and gather that. The workshop I mean, it's often combined with the commencement meeting, but it's optional even in a full. So site inspection is another one in a rapid. They can be done desktop. Now, a lot of rapids we will still go out on site because it adds value, and you like to do that, but you may not do that in a rapid. You still assess the matrix and fill out the matrix, all the design options, you fill it all out the same. The consideration of those qualitative questions is another one that can drop off in a rapid. You still recommend changes. You do a lighter report for a rapid. I mean, it's not a huge amount lighter, but then everything else is the same. It's handed over to the client, they consider it, and there's rescoring if required, and the project's amended. So I would say maybe a rapid is sort of 70% of the work, maybe 60 to 70% of the work of a full. Okay, I'll pause there. I'll see if anybody's got questions about anything from your assignments to the process of safe system assessments, fitting it all in, and how jurisdictions are operating with it, accreditation, registration, anything along those lines, before I do a final little thing, which is only going to take me 20 minutes at most, where I'm just going to jump through some road environments and have a little final chat about how do we get them to better alignment with safe system principles, and then let you run off freely into the weekend, where you will no doubt do some safe system assessing along the way.
Absolutely. There's nothing at the minute, so I guess we must be okay. If you do have any questions, though, don't hesitate to type them in or raise your hand and we can have a chat.
Okay. So the reason I just want to finish off with these different roads and ideas on how we get them higher aligned with safe system principles is because you are doing a safe system assessment on one particular road environment. And it could be a local intersection, it could be a more major one, but you're going to do a lot of thinking around that specific road environment. When you successfully complete that, we give you a certificate that says, hey, you are a safe system assessor. And it doesn't say you're a safe system assessor just on local intersections. You could do anything. You could do residential areas, you could do major urban freeways, whatever it is, the principles still apply. What you're recommending and how we get safer alignment with safe system principles. So I hope you've picked up a lot along the journey, and it's going to be a never-ending professional development, continual learning exercise, as we're all constantly on, as new things come into play and other ideas, and you're delving into new areas. But let's dive into a few of these and just look at what we could do. Why don't I give out a prize or two, just because we've had a lack of prizes for this session. Here we go, got a residential street. It's 50 km/h default speed limit. It accesses onto a more major road down here. You can see there parking, people crossing, and the like. What can we do to get better alignment with safe system principles, changing infrastructure in this road environment? And of course, tell me if your changes are going to influence exposure, likelihood, or severity. Seen some good stuff coming in there. A few people forgetting to put exposure, likelihood, and severity. Lots of you are doing that. Who do I give a prize to? There's lots of good answers in there. I think Francis A1 can have a prize there for speed humps and identifying that will influence likelihood and severity, and that's good. Yeah. So reducing speed and local area traffic management and the like, and raised platforms and everything like that, we're identifying that it really does it. Generally in an area like this, you lower all of the speeds and everything like that, so the chance of crash and the severity of crash is down. Sometimes we just attribute raised platforms to severity, but that's more often in the higher speed arterial network. But I'm being sort of a little bit picky, I suppose, in some of this. Yeah, lots of great stuff there. Lots of people wanting to reduce speed and the like, traffic calming, people interested in some road markings and the like, and that's a likelihood factor. Nobody, I don't see there, wants to remove the parking, which is kind of good in the sense that if you remove parking, you often create this wider environment which can induce higher speed. So removing the parking and then replacing it with big curb out stands and or bike facilities or the like, that can be really, super successful. But just a mere removing parking to open sight lines to crossing points and the like, it can increase speed. So you might get reduced likelihood by better sight lines, but increased likelihood from higher speeds and potentially other issues. So one-way section. So I like that thinking there, and curb build outs, curb out stands, and the like. And what will that influence? Well, depending on whether or not it alters the volume of traffic is the key there. But it would have been nice to see somebody close this off again down the end here, and that would influence certainly the exposure because you'd have less vehicles and then less ability to crash there. And Marcus is trying to get a huge prize for Hugo there. So Kathy, I'll let you determine whether to get him there.
I will. Have you? Yeah, hashtag prize for Hugo. Everyone's jumping on board. There was an article in the paper this morning about a cyclist concerned about curb build-outs forcing them into the traffic flow. Any advice on how we can capture those concerns?
Yeah.
Andrew
so
said you can put a bike lane behind the curb build-out.
Well done, Andrew. Yeah. So
prize for Andrew.
Okay, prize for Andrew. Well, maybe. Well, Rolly's already got a shipping container of prizes coming up in his way. So, so there's actually we call it a bike bypass, and you can do it for curb out, build out. I'd call them curb out stands, but curb build outs in New Zealand. So curb build outs, one-way slow points, and you can do them in a really tactful manner and really elegant manner. And I could show some photos. It'd probably take me 5 minutes to dig them out, but I could send those through to anybody who's interested. Okay, wonderful. As usual, this group is just great interaction. But I think I'm going to jump through these last few myself pretty quickly to hand back that time to the group to finish everything off. I know that people want to do that. So this one, really, we're looking at areas of high face value, and everything should be done to eliminate cars being in those areas and reducing the exposure. If we can't, we have to have some in there. They have to be exceedingly slow, like really slow, because anything we do that enhances this for cars as a through route erodes its place value, erodes what it's all about. So anything you were to do, like putting fencing up, that's a no-no, because that erodes the place value. Plus, you'll also just get people like this guy will walk along the road because that's where he was going. Anything like creating individual single crossing points and fencing it off, you've eroded that. So what we do, shared zones, very low speed, raising the whole area, making it a pedestrian area basically is what we're doing, and lowering the likelihood and severity of crashes if you're still having vehicles that they're ideally getting the exposure down. A quick prize if somebody can tell me where this is. Outside Raleigh's house, and add some more of the shipping container there. It is in Hamilton, just on the lead into the CBD there. And these sort of environments are interesting, where what are we sort of looking at? And really for me, I think understanding your road use hierarchy and your movement place, categorization, everything like that really helps, and then it just falls into place as to what you feel you should be doing, especially if you're getting bypasses of townships and alternate routes for heavy vehicles and traffic as your major opportunities to really transform these environments and utilize space for cycling facilities. Do we really need 2 lanes in this section of highway as it currently stands, or as it go into the future? And can we reduce that, utilize part of it for bike facilities, reducing the likelihood of crashes, potentially reducing speeds as well as associated with that. But certainly raised intersections, I think, work quite well in these sorts of environments, as continued gateway entries into more urbanized CBD style areas, raised platforms, and the like, and maybe refuges for people crossing, but trying to reduce the likelihood and severity of crashes through some of those facilities. Okay, out in a regional high-speed, low-volume network is probably an area that, well, it's a huge challenge, because if that speed is to remain high, the investment in infrastructure to achieve high alignment with safe system principles is astronomical, and just insanely big, because it really involves us providing continuous safety barriers down the middle and the outside of the road in order to cater for people's mistakes. And we just can't do that on roads that are low volume, not because we don't necessarily want to, but because it's just not affordable. You'll spend all of New Zealand's capital infrastructure budget on one district, and so what we need to start thinking about in these is a different speed management regime altogether. Low volume roads, lower speed, high volume roads, more infrastructure investment, maintain high speeds, but more strategically important ones. Now you've got so much stuff happening in speed management across New Zealand that I don't need to start telling you about it. And there's really great stuff happening, and it's transformative. As a safe system assessor, what our role is not to get too much involved in that, and simply just understand that lowering the speed limit on these sorts of roads will improve alignment with safe system principles. And it should be put forward by us as an option, a recommendation. Now, how the project team, what they do with that, it's up to them, and they've got the nasty, messy job of community and politics and all of that sort of stuff. But we know that will be effective. I see a comment coming in there around, well, it's one thing to put a sign up, but are people actually going to comply with that? And interestingly, there's a lot of research out there, a lot of evidence around to show that they will. They won't go to that number, but speeds will be reduced by simply doing that. And we get really good wins out of that, as you remember from module 1, where we get a third power relationship benefit in reduction in serious injuries, and a second power relationship for serious injuries. No, fourth power relationship and a third. Anyway, the point being that if we can, if it's a 100km/h speed limit, we make it an 80, for example, and we get speed, 85th percentile speeds from 102 down to 90, 91. That's a huge win in road safety. All right, people get fixated on the non-compliance. Now, maybe we need to put out some point-to-point, mobile point-to-point speed cameras, and there's a whole lot of new enforcement technology coming out there, and all sorts of exciting stuff that will help with that. But don't let the fact that you might say to yourself, oh, it's just too messy and hard to reduce the speed limit on these sorts of roads, impact into your safe system assessment, whether you're going to put it in as a recommendation or not, because that's their issue to deal with. Now, I suppose you've got to find the right balance, because if you were to say, make this road 30km/h speed limit, that's not realistic. But where's that exact point? It's hard to say. Anyway, I just trying to point that out. But a lot of stuff in these road environments that will actually happen are likelihood reducers. So sealed shoulders, audio tactile edge line, audio tactile center line, enhanced delineation, isolated barrier systems, and the like. And then it's the state highways, the bigger roads, where you're going to want to invest in the infrastructure to keep the speed high, because the strategic roads are important. And so these sort of roads, we're going to see, the continuous barrier systems, the central barrier system, the outer barrier system, maybe a 2+1 scenario at different points to mean that speeds are high, and when the crashes happen, the severity is low because it's hitting a barrier, it's running along the barrier system. And great rollout of that sort of stuff happening in New Zealand. And when you're doing that, you're putting that central barrier system down a road. It can often cause issues with access points and side roads and the like. If you strategically think about routes and utilize roads like this, where you can have a turnaround spot, U-turn facility for some access points and those sort of things, you can get all sorts of benefits out of that, can't you? Because you've got a continuous barrier system, you've got a highly safe system aligned intersection treatment, you've got a great U-turn facility, everything just falls into place. And it's actually a nice exercise and a fun exercise to take a route and think about it strategically like that. And say, well, these intersections are great for roundabouts because they're high volume and they've got these sort of things. But it also means that, we can do continuous barrier here and here. And okay, now there's this big long bit, and that's far too far for anybody to drive the wrong way to get to that roundabout. So what do we have to do? And what sort of turnaround points and U-turn facilities do we need to build, and how can we do that in the best possible manner? When we do have these major traffic routes, that decisions have been made that, okay, this is a primary traffic route. That's where we can't be mixing pedestrians, cyclists with the higher speed and higher volumes of traffic. So you can't be putting cycle lanes on these. They have to be fully separated facilities. And it is more acceptable to then block off pedestrians crossing with fences, do underpasses, overpasses, or, make it really not an area to be crossing, but also thinking about reducing the speed through these major conflict points. Potentially, some other things in there. Urban freeways, motorways, and the like, they perform really well. They have a high alignment with safe system principles from a number of reasons. First of all, the conflict points are at good angles. I mean, there's on ramps and off ramps. The ability for head-on crashes is eliminated due to these sort of concrete physical barrier systems. There's not trees and power poles and things to be hitting. So you've got lots of wins there. Yeah, it'd be nice to have a bit more flexibility in some of the barrier systems. They're quite rigid, but anyway. But where we see these freeways perform badly is associated with flow breakdown. So at free flow, they seem to operate really quite well from a road safety perspective. And when they're absolutely saturated, they're stuffed, they're not moving, the speeds aren't high enough to cause damage. And we see lots and lots of minor issues, but not death and serious injury. So that's on the rear ends, fender benders and the like. So the problem, really, the road safety problem one part of it is as flow breaks down. So there's high speed, but then we're getting bank up of traffic and quickly people rear ending at that or avoiding at high speed. So really to get reduced likelihood of that happening and a bit of reduced severity is we talk about managed motorways and lane use management systems, proactive warning, monitoring systems, ramp metering, all these things you can put into these smart motorways now to predict congestion, predict things that are going to happen and reduce speeds and close off lanes in that sort of targeted manner. Also, pedestrian crashes are actually quite prevalent in these areas, and then they're high severity, serious injuries and deaths. And it's associated with people getting out of cars, getting out of taxis, often at weird hours of the morning, and they're obviously intoxicated and these sorts of things. But the lane use management and proactive incident warning and slowing all the vehicles when those things actually start to, you can monitor, you can see it happen, you can slow vehicles beforehand. And major rural highways, and we know that State Highway 1 and things is just going to get continuous barrier systems down at grade separated intersections. And I do like, if you do have these large median and you've got intersections and you can't grade separate it for one reason or another, a roundabout's ideal, but sometimes a freight efficiency that I don't like that. But there is a way to operate an at-grade intersection in a fairly high, say, system-aligned manner, and it involves a long acceleration lane, enough time to get across, a U-turn, an acceleration back, and then enough time to get across again. So you've got some sort of median in the middle there. So you get good angles, good speed differential at conflict points, good angle, good speed differential. Merge from the right, not the best, but then you need obviously a lot of, this is not to scale, by the way, you need a lot of space there to drift over, and then they can go. So you can, instead of coming up and crossing where you have these bad angles, high speed, you go speed up, accelerate, merge in, cross, U-turn, accelerate, speed up, merge in, move across slowly, and then you're off that way, or you can continue ahead. So it can be done. Okay. Final questions. And then Kathy, you can have a go at showing.
Yeah, I'll have a go. So there was, I'm not sure if that answers Rolly's question about hundreds, if not thousands, of rural intersections across the South Island that have poor visibility, look through, etc., that have medium to low volumes. Have you come across any mass action that could efficiently be rolled out that councils could investigate?
So there's a few things off the top of my head. I mean, I'm a big fan of compact roundabouts at the moment. Now they're still high cost, so it's not like that everything can get that done. But I think we could put out 3 to 4 compact roundabouts for the cost of every one we're currently doing, and so that would be a significant help and get us down on some of those highest volume, highest risk ones of those, and just we should be really moving those along. The RIOs, the rural intersection activated warning signs, and what's currently happening in some trialing in South Australia, I think, is the logical answer, which is not hardwired and not needing to be back to central units or as much. So they're essentially solar powered and ability to just go out and plonk them in and use radars and the like. So at big production of those, I think we could save some significant costs and roll those out and get a lot more of the intersections done in that sense. And then maybe just, some regulatory speed reductions, but then some low cost side road things to reduce the likelihood of that see-through effect. And I think paddles as splitter islands, paddle boards as splitter islands and those sorts of things are very low cost and quite effective. They are a likelihood reducing one, but potentially quite effective.
Oh, hello. A low profile painted rumble strips on the approach leg they've got examples in rural Auckland.
There's they are effective. Some people don't like them, but they are effective. We've done some studies of those at railway level crossings especially, but same principles apply at intersections. Okay,
let's see how we go. I wanted to bring this one up first. Are you seeing anything?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Nope.
Being too ambitious.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay, yes. Oh, there's the cycle bypass. Yes, well done. So that's a one-way slow point. With
this is in my local neighbourhood. So yeah. Okay, back to our course. So we are working on our safe system assessment, the final assignment. Everybody's had a look and everybody's happy with their
we're still seeing
you're not there yet.
We're still seeing the one-way slow point.
Well, this is a one-way slow point right here, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Okay, guess what? I'm taking over.
So you are. Thank you.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can. You and your fast internet. Sure.
Okay, so you are working your way through here, and you're in your module 5, and you're going to upload. Oh, we've got some hidden stuff. Oh, one-way slow point. There you go. You can add that. You're going to do a quiz for today. And back in module 4, you're going to upload your safe system assessment. You're going to finish that off. And then once you've uploaded all of that, you've done all the quizzes and you're happy with everything, and everything gets marked and you get above 80% on everything, you're going to go to feedback and certificates. You're going to do the course feedback, and only after you've done the course feedback will the certificate release. And it's just a couple of questions to try to help us gauge how you found the course and see if there's anything we can do to improve it in the future. And then your certificate will release. Now, you'll get an electronic copy of your certificate there, and then a pack in the mail or a shipping crate for Rolly will arrive, and you will have in there the certificate, hard copy, and any prizes you've won along the way. Remember, you've got lots of resources in there, different things that'll help you along, and then in each of the modules you've got different bits and pieces. But of course, at any point throughout the next week, get in contact with us if you want to chat about your assignment, if you want a one-on-one Zoom catch up just to talk through a few things, always happy to help out in that sense. Now, Kathy, anything else that I was meant to cover in the learning management system?
No, I think you've done a terrific job. Thank you, Ken. Any questions from anyone? Final question, opportunity time. The assignment is due next Friday. Ken will spend the weekend maybe marking them, or maybe the week after is how that works. Get in touch if you need anything. Who knows? I might even have internet then.
Yeah. Okay, I want to just thank everybody for taking time out of their super busy schedules to investigate this process and learn how to do safe system assessments and a little bit more thinking around the safe system. I think it's so important that we have lots of capable, intelligent people like yourselves out there pushing projects and pushing people to really consider, how do we get the best safe system alignment? How do we protect as many of our community as possible through the building works and infrastructure works and the investments that we're making? And it's a good process. It's helpful in a lot of ways, and you are now sort of a champion for this process. And I really want you to encourage people to do safe system assessments. Get your certificate, put it up online or social media or whatever it is, and tell people, you can do this, this process now, you can help them. You're a safe system assessor and complete the course. And if you're a road authority, a road controlling authority, try to ask whether, should this be part of our standard process for projects or the like. If you're a consultant, talk to your clients about your ability to do this, and within projects say, well, maybe you should consider a safe system assessment as part of this and moving things along. Of course, I'm always available to send you example safe system assessments or give you, point you in different directions if you've got queries, or if you've got some random project that you're trying to get your head around. Maybe flick me an email, see if we've done anything like it, or I know people who have, or can put you in contact with people. So yeah, please keep in contact. Always just looking to try to help people move safe system along as much as possible. Thanks to Kathy and her team for the work behind the scenes. It's just a crazy amount of work to do to get these up and running. I just have the luxury of turning up and presenting content and getting involved in that side of things. So thank you for all the work, Kathy, and thanks to your team for the work behind the scenes. And yeah, thank you, everybody. Good luck with your assignments and keep in contact.
Thanks, Ken. Thank you for all your passion. I'm not going to turn my video on, and thank you to Waka Kotahi for really pushing this along. They've made great investments in getting this training up and running, so we really do thank them as well. And thanks, everybody. Keep in touch. See ya.
Bye.